$145 billion. That's how much was spent on the production of digital content last year. Unfortunately, research has found that up to as much as 90% of that content never gets used. So what I want to do today is talk to you about what we can do about that, how we can change the equation, and how context plays a role. So the thing that I want to get across is that I hear a lot of B2B marketers say, well, you know, there's just so much content being published these days that we can't compete. And in order to compete, we need to publish more content. And it becomes this hamster wheel of stuff. Just more stuff and more stuff. And somehow, we're on the volume trail again instead of the quality trail. And so the thing that has really stuck out to me over the last few years in watching the research, specifically the research that CMI does, is that back in 2011, we were in the 40% range for those of us who thought we were effective at content marketing. Then we dropped all the way down to 30%. We've come back up slightly to 32%. But the thing for me is that we've been doing content marketing for about a decade, and we need to be better than that. So we need to start shifting the way we think about it. But the other reason we need to shift the way we think about it is because B2B buyers are getting frustrated. They're getting overwhelmed with content, and for the most part, what they say when they're asked is that they're frustrated because the experiences they're having with our content are inconsistent. So it's like random content. It's not helping them solve a problem. It's not building a use case. It's not helping them get from problem to solution. But there's plenty of content out there. So what the research shows is they're becoming extremely picky about defining what's a trustworthy source. And so we have to work harder to pass muster. But they're also, for I think 5 years running now, in the B2B Content Preferences Survey, they've said, quit talking about your products and quit giving me a sales pitch. And by about the same percentage. And so it makes me wonder why we're still doing that when we know that content is really about being helpful, content marketing. And so we need to change the way we think. So instead of going to market talking about product and brand, we need to talk about or provide experiences and purpose. We need to be more meaningful in addressing what's relevant and what resonates with our buyers. And in order to do that, we need to know them really, really well. But in addition to that, this is where context comes into play. So what we need to do is think about what causes the interactions that we have with our buyers, our audiences. What happens before? What motivates them to have an interaction with us, to view our content, to visit our website? But even more importantly, what happens after that? What do they do next? And as we go through this session today, I want you to just keep thinking, what's next? Okay, because it's really important. So the big key to context in B2B marketing, or any marketing actually, is that every time your prospect, your buyer, your audience has an interaction with you, something needs to shift, or something will shift, okay? If they came to your website with an inquiry, like, why should I solve this problem? And they see content from you that has them think, okay, maybe there's a point. Their perspective has shifted, their context has shifted, even if only this much. So we cannot continue to interact with them in the same way time after time. So if they have come out and interacted with you in a certain way, that needs to inform how we interact with them moving forward, or what we provide to them as a next step. See, what's next? So we got to keep thinking, what's next? So one of the ways to shift from thinking about your product, because all of us know our products so well, we are convinced that our buyers should use our products. We have all the reasons in the world why. But they don't care about your product. They care about what your product enables. And so recently, I've been working with a client and pursuing kind of some new thinking because they're really entrenched in the sales-driven concept. They're product-oriented. They have never done content marketing before. Right now, I have 4 clients like that. They're all industrial. They're manufacturers. What they found out was they were losing market share because their competitors were adopting customer-centric marketing, content marketing. And they know they need to change, but they are entrenched. And so I'm trying to figure out how to get them to shift their perspective. And one of the things that I came up with to try to get sales to let go of the leads, because in sales mind, the leads belong to them, and marketing, don't you touch them. Don't you go near my leads. Okay, so we need to shift that. So we started doing some thinking and some talking about jobs to be done. Jobs to be done theory, has anybody looked into it before? Anybody familiar? Good, a few of you. Jobs to be done is interesting. And as you can tell by the clue slide, the graphic there, people are hiring a drill because they want a hole, not because they want a drill. They're hiring your product to do a job for them. So when you turn it around and you think about that and you say, okay, what job are they hiring my product to do? Then you can get to kind of the big picture, okay, what's the goal? And then you can start backing into what are the tasks or the needs they have in order to figure out how to complete that job to be done. And you can start backing into a storyline, okay? So we need to start thinking about this from why would they hire our product? And the other thing we need to start thinking about in the education process, the product they are hiring is your content, okay? So your content has a job to do, and it needs to help them complete a task on the way to completing a job to be done. So if we start thinking in that type of manner, we can get closer to addressing context, right, as we look at the interactions that our prospects and audience have with us. So one of the things that I've worked with my clients, and this is part of persona development, is questions. And I've developed, 400 or 500 personas over the last 5-6 years for dozens of clients. And one of the things that drives a contextual approach to B2B content marketing is understanding the nuance, the questions, and you can also classify these as tasks or jobs to be, tasks or needs that roll up under the big job to be done. The other thing that I want to make really clear is that content marketing is not about buying and selling, it's about change management, okay? So we need to think about the difference in perspective from awareness, consideration, and purchase to considering change, preparing for change, and embracing change. With awareness, consideration, and purchase, it's all about, are they aware of my product? Are they considering my product? Are they purchasing my product? With change, it's about what has to change in order for them to solve the problem to get to the job to be done or the goal or the objective, right? And so when you think about it in that way, it also helps shift that mindset a little bit so that we're thinking about them and what they have to go through in order to consider change. And so if you look at the left side of the screen for consider change, what they're really trying to figure out at this point is the problem we're solving? And this is a really important point that I really want you to get, because quite often we start thinking they know they need to buy our product. And really, we're out there trying to make them aware of our brand and our product and choose us instead of our competitor. But that's not true. If we wait that long, somebody else has already convinced them that the problem is worth solving. And you're now trying to unseat those ideas and replace them with your company's. We have to get in there earlier. We need to think about the pre-sales part of this. Okay? When they're sitting there saying, why should I care? This process may suck, but it still works. So it's okay with me because something different could be worse, right? Fear of the unknown. Why should I care? And once you start educating them and they say, oh, heck, I didn't know that. This could be really bad. Well, maybe not. How bad could it be if I don't do anything at all? And then they go, oh, that bad. Well, are our competitors doing anything about that? You know, and there's a whole process that they go through thinking about this. We need to create content that helps them understand not only the problem, but why they should fix it, why they should care about fixing it. You know, there's research that Forrester did years ago that found out that the people or the vendor who sets the future vision first has a higher likelihood of winning the deal. We need to start thinking about how do we get in to do that. How do we infuse ideas with the personas on the buying committee? In B2B, that's according to CEB, we're up to 6.8. So we almost got a whole 7th person now. But that's a lot of people to influence. And we have to think about most of the time when people go out to buy a complex solution, they're not doing this every day. They may not even realize all the people they need to get involved so that the thing doesn't stall when they get partway down the road. So we need to really think about how do we get our ideas in there, in those conversations amongst them when they're deciding, well, heck, don't we have a system we're not utilizing that could do this? Can't we just solve it internally? Versus should they buy? Why should they look outside the organization? Because it's all systemic change. This is change management. So we need to think about that. And then when they start preparing for change, they're convinced that the problems we're solving, now they're in this inquiry about how do we solve it? They're not into going out to evaluate solutions because they haven't decided how they solve it yet. So we have to help them consider that. You know, they're in this place where they're like, okay, what do I need to know? What do I need to consider? If I fix this thing, what else is going to change? What else could it impact? Oh God, Sally's going to kill me if I change her process. You know, she just got her team up to speed and now she's going to have to redo it. Oh God. You know, so we need to think about what does all this look like from their side? How do they wrangle through all of this? And this is the reason, as you work through all of these different things, and there's much more than what's on this slide, but I could only cram so much on there for you. But we need to think about how do you get to that depth of knowledge that allows you to orchestrate this kind of a content marketing program, right? How do you create content that's so damn useful that 90% of unused content is all about your competitors, not about you? Right? Well, this is how you get to it. In all of the years I've been doing this, a persona is the best construct that I have come up with for how to understand an audience. You could call it whatever you want, but you need this level of depth. Now, when you think about a persona, most of the personas I see are not created very well. You know, they have information that's not usable, and that's not acceptable. We need to do deep dives, so what we need to understand is, what does a day in the life of our persona look like in relation to the problem they're trying to solve or their job to be done? And in B2B, we not only need to know what it looks like for the persona, but the relationships they have with everybody else on the buying committee. Who's going to push back? Who's going to help them? Who's going to throw up territorial stuff in their way? You know, what could some of the obstacles be? So we need to understand our personas not only on a professional level and a job level, but at a committee level. So one of the problems is that I see when people create personas, is they say, okay, we've got our personas, so we're going to create this nurture program for John, we got a nurture program for Sam, and we got a nurture program for Susan. And we go out and we execute, and we send touches out to John, and touches out to Sam, and touches out to Susan. Like these people never talk to each other, right? So we need to start looking at, when we're building personas, what are these overlays, right? How are we going to orchestrate conversations amongst these people on the buying committee? And it could be as simple as, hey, John, Susan, your HR director, could be concerned that implementing this new platform is going to run up her training budget. Here's a case study you could pass on to her to show her how she can avoid this happening, or how you can help her avoid it happening. Whatever. What are the ways that we can involve these personas in conversations with each other successfully, right? So we need to understand these different things going on. But on top of that, a good persona should help you understand their view of the world, their perspective. Are they glass half empty people or glass half full people? Are they motivated by risk or by reward? Carrot or stick? You know, which way are you going to approach your content? And it goes to tone of voice and style and how you decide to write your content. And so that's why when I talk about personas, I get really angry when I see B2B personas with personal demographics, like they're married with 2 kids and a dog, they live in the suburbs, and they make $150,000 a year. What are you going to do with that? I mean, seriously. For a B2B persona, we need to think about professional attributes and what we can learn from them. So, for example, time in career. Is it somebody who's been in their career for maybe 5 years? They're still kind of junior. They need somebody that's kind of like a mentor who's going to guide them with expertise so they look good trying to solve the problem. Or is it somebody who's been in their career for 20 years and they need more like a strategic peer kind of perspective from the content to help just reinforce their confidence they're making the right decision? What's their professional aspiration? Are they still climbing the ladder? So they're really afraid if they fail, their career will be shot? Are they getting ready to retire, so they want to leave a legacy? All of these different kinds of things influence the way you're going to write content.